Hello everyone and welcome to Soul GPS. This is Ava. Today I'm coming to you from Northern California. We're having a beautiful day here. It's a little windy, so I apologize for that. Hopefully it won't interfere in the video. But it's interesting to actually come here full circle after one of the worst periods of my life, just before I left my narcissistic ex, and to cope with the feelings, the flashbacks, the memories. But this is not something I wanted to talk about in this video. In this video, I actually wanted to address a question by one of my viewers, actually one of my Polish viewers. And I'm not going to read the entire email, but just boil it down to its essence, which is basically a question of, what should I do if I know that I am with a narcissist, but I'm not ready to leave a relationship, or I don't want to leave a relationship? So here's my take on that. I want to say that none of us really wish, I think, to leave a relationship, because it's very painful. All breakups are really difficult to go through. And it can be even that much more difficult when it is not with a person that is friendly, that is supportive, that you can have the so-called closure with. Instead, it is abusive, it is harmful for you, for your psychology, for your well-being, and it requires just an exorbitant amount of effort on your part to even stay connected with yourself, to stay balanced when you're with that person. So we all want to, stay in love, and we all want to have a good time. But unfortunately, when abuse comes into play, I would say that one of the things you might want to do is really ask yourself why. Why would you want to stay with a person like this? Because narcissists, they don't change. They don't want to change. They think they're perfect. They think that they're super entitled. They deserve everything they want. They just want to grab something and take it and claim it as its own, and which is often the case with the partners, which is pretty much always the case with the partners. They act as if they were your owners, as if you were something that belonged to them, and which is a really toxic thing. So narcissism, like many personality disorders, exists on a spectrum. So there is some space, there is some hope in the fact that maybe they could change, maybe they could become better, but that would require a huge amount of effort on their part. And again, most of them don't want to put up with it, they don't want to deal with it. So if they have just traits, right, if they are really good-hearted people, but they have either picked up some fleas from their parents or from other partners, they're acting really entitled, but again, deep inside, you're sensing that they're a good person, and they're receptive when you speak to them. They're receptive to wanting to change. Then again, there's hope. But even if they keep slipping into the old behavior, but you see that they're trying really hard, and they are willing to also go and do therapy, that's great. If they're on the malignant side of the spectrum, the hope for them changing is very small, if any at all. This is because these people they actually enjoy hurting others. So I would really bury the hope at this point and accept the fact that this is it. That what you've got is something you're gonna be stuck with if you choose to be with that person. So they don't want to change. What you're dealing with is, you're dealing with ego. You're dealing with people who don't want to accept any responsibility for their actions. They are incapable of doing any introspection, because again, they think that they're perfect the way they are. They have no way of putting themselves in your shoes. That comes with the no empathy trait that they have, no conscience, which means that if they do something negative, if they watch you cry, if they know they have hurt you, they are not going to feel bad about it. They're actually going to go like, yay, points for me. They feel like they're more in control, like their ego gets bigger, and they get off at it. They literally get off at making you feel bad. So what they do is, the whole game is about blaming. It's about blaming the other person, blaming you for whatever it is that is happening. And they just have this uncanny way of turning things around. It's quite mind-boggling. And they oftentimes, with these people, you're going to try really hard to make them hear you out and understand you, and they may act as if they do, or they may just blatantly ignore you, give you the silent treatment, or, you know, give you a whole bunch of rationalization bullshit. Whatever they do, it's often not until they feel like you've made up your mind and you're about to walk out the door that they might go, wait, I want to work through this. Don't leave me. And that's also where hoovering comes in, because it's this whole time they feel that, or they act as if, and they think that this is a game. And of course they'll have to win at the game, but there comes a time when they're willing to compromise just a little bit, compromise their ego just a little bit, and again, just feed you a whole bunch of bullshit, which is all just talk, no do, it's just talk, by promising you that they're going to change, they're going to do this, and that, but it never comes to pass. Now, if it comes to this point where they will agree to do therapy, do not, under any circumstances, go into couples counseling or couples therapy, because what they will do is everything they will learn during that therapy will be used against you. They might also turn the therapist into a flying monkey, and then now they have another, if the therapist isn't familiar with personality disorders and manipulative tactics, they might fall for the narcissist in their charm. And then you have now two people against you, which is even more crazy making. So now you feel like, oh my God, there's really something wrong with me. Like, oh my God, you'll be on the edge of losing your mind, because if now also the therapist is playing the same game, then I can't even imagine what people who go through this go through. So under no circumstances do couples counseling. If you know that you're dealing with an NPD, or someone who's high up on the spectrum, have them do it themselves. And I think the cognitive behavioral therapy, I think it's called, is the one that works. They basically need to change their behavior. It's all about the behavior. It's not about the talk, because the narcissist is so good with words. They can make you believe almost anything. They're great salespeople, including selling themselves in the relationship. So they will say anything, but they have zero accountability for following up on what they say. So remember that. The only way you can feel like there might be a chance of giving them hope, giving them a second chance, is when you're seeing them actually making a change. So what if, going back to the question, so I went slightly off course there, but what if, you're like, I know they're horrible. I know that they're not going to change. I don't expect them to change. I don't expect them to do therapy. I just can't leave. Maybe you have kids with them, and you just don't want to leave. So what do you do then? Well, then you're going to have to really arm yourself. You're going to have to get really, really, really strong, and make a lot of compromises. A lot of compromises. One of the first things you're going to have to do is take full responsibility and full accountability for your own joy and happiness. So do not expect that this person is going to really be there for you and enhance your happiness. In fact, narcissists are very notorious at undermining you and undercutting your happiness. So when you're feeling good, they're going to feel threatened. So they're going to do things in order to bring you back down. And then if you feel down, then of course they love it. And if you are down and if you need help, they're not going to offer help. They're going to stamp on you on top of it. It's like if you imagine climbing a ladder and them being slightly ahead of you, and you're reaching up your arm and you're like, please help me. It's like in those action movies, when somebody's reaching out and say, please help me. All they're gonna do is they're just gonna stamp on top of your wrist, and break it, and just go ha ha ha, And this is I talk about this and I study this thing all the time, every single day. I read up about this or do some form of a research and think about it, but it's like there are moments where I'm having these tiny glimpses when I really get it, when I really can understand what it's like to be them. It's a really scary moment, but it's really enlightening. But most of the time, as right now in this moment, I literally, and I admit to this, and I think most of us are in the same place, just cannot imagine what it takes to be that cruel. And that is the problem with us. We project, and I made a video on projection less than a month ago. I think it's still pretty recent in if you scroll down through my video library about projection and the dangers of it, because we think that the way we are is how majority of society is, and that's a big mistake, and it gets us into trouble all the time. And it's not something we even do it consciously. It's an automatic way of being. So it's like I have to constantly remind myself when I'm out there meeting people that, you know, just watch out, because this person might not be who I think that they are, you know, and especially if I'm getting that weird gut feeling. So this is what they are, how they are. You're not gonna get support when you need it. I remember my ex wanting to go to a hotel when I had a flu, you know, because he didn't want to get sick. I mean, it's like that bad, and I'm there like dying, you know, coughing my lungs out, needing somebody to really be there for me with a high fever. And he's like, honey, I'm gonna go check into a hotel because I have a very important meeting tomorrow. I can't get sick, you know, and sickness and health, right? Yeah, exactly. So boundaries is something very important. You're gonna have to set emotional boundaries, which means that, and really lower your expectations. So however they're gonna act, whatever it is that they're gonna do, whatever spiel they're in that moment, you can't take it personally. You're gonna have to keep reminding yourself, hey, this is how they are. This has nothing to do with me, and I'm responsible for my own joy and happiness. And, you know, again, why would you want to have a partnership in which you can help one another and ascend higher and higher together, by helping one another, by really being there for one another in sickness and in health, you know, in wealth and in poverty, and you would rather compromise to this. But that's, of course, a question for you that you're going to have to answer for yourself. Another good thing to do if you are dealing with a narcissist is to practice the gray rock technique. Again, it could be that you have children and you have no choice. You have to have some form of an interaction. And in this, in Grey Rock, what you do is you just don't give any emotional reaction, no matter what it is that they do or what they say. They're going to poke you. They're going to try to provoke you. They'll try to do anything they can to raise an emotion out of you, because that's how they get off. You know, once the honeymoon stage wears down, in which they are getting off at the praise and the sweetness and the sugar coating and the, oh my god, I can't live without you, you're my soulmate, and that kind of positive supply. Once it gets into the devaluation stage, it's all about the negative supply. So they're still getting off at it, but they're getting off at the other side. You know, they're like, they want to see you suffer. It's so sick. So you're gonna have to be immune to those cycles. You might also do something, which is, I think, a bit of a manipulation would be on your part. I don't think it's as bad as what the narcissist does, but it could give you a little bit of a control over the situation, which is to reward them with your receptivity, your positivity when they're nice to you, and of course ignore them when they're not, to just kind of let them know, hey, unless you treat me like I'm a human being, I'm not going to interact with you. So you know, if they have a mild case of narcissism, I think it is possible to somehow put up with it. I know that I couldn't. I have no ability to do that ever in my life anymore. If you have higher standards, and if you really want to see some change, I would go for what I call the 3 A's, which is that when you voice and communicate your concern and the fact that you don't like what's happening in this moment, you don't like what they're doing, you don't like what they're saying, you're concerned about this and that, you need to do this. They need to acknowledge, apologize, and take new action. So acknowledge, say, yes, I hear you, honey, you know, I understand what you're saying, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Now, just those two are not enough, because narcissists never really apologize. They can say that they do. Again, they can say anything, but it's their action that speaks louder than words, and that's the action that you need to really pay attention to. So unless they actually do something in order to show you that they're trying to change, and they change their behavior, then I wouldn't believe them. So yeah, so if you want to put up with it, you need to understand that this is how they are, this is their behavior. Take responsibility for your own happiness, for your own joy. put a healthy emotional boundaries so that you don't take personally what it is that they do. I mean, healthy here is kind of, it's a bit of a stretch, because being in the vicinity of that person can't be healthy. So you're gonna have to be constantly on guard and working hard. I remember when I was in my long relationship with you know, a person that's been heavily disordered on the personality spectrum. I literally felt like I was in a 24-hour workshop. I had to constantly I would take a responsibility for things that I didn't do just to have a peace of mind, just to like let him just to shut up, just to have him stop yelling, to have him stop, you know, sitting on my back. And that is not a life that's conducive to creativity, that's conducive towards building something, anything with that person, because anything you kind of build, it's gonna fall, it's gonna be destroyed. So it's kind of like doing the Sisyphus. I don't know if I'm saying it right. The Greek myth of Sisyphus. I think that's how you say it. So he basically, you know, pushes a rock up a hill, and then just as he's about to get to the top, he loses balance, slips, and the rock just falls back down to the ground, and he has to start over. And he does that forever. It's an endless cycle, and that's kind of the life with a narcissist. Like, you can't never really get very far. In fact, you might start sliding lower and lower over time, just because, you know, I mean, the stories I get from people who are sending me emails, how much in debt they get. I got in tremendous debt, you know, their friendships destroyed, careers destroyed, their health destroyed. It's like, once you've had enough, and then you get to really like look at the damage, it's like a hurricane just went through. So there's a lot of work that will need to get done. But again, it is your choice. It is really your choice. If this is something you want to do, go for it. Just know that you will never be able to really create true intimacy with that person, because you can't really trust them, because they will use everything you tell them against you. And I think it's in the moments that we're low that we have a possibility to, like a real deep possibility to connect with someone, like on a very deep level. It's in our sorrow where we can create these really long-lasting bonds. But again, it has to be with a person whom you can trust. Because if you do that with a narcissist, they're going to somehow twist it and tweak it to their advantage, so that they get one up on you. And that's horrible. And that not only is it horrible in the sense that it's hurtful, and it will erode trust, but it will also erode your own identity and your own sense of sanity, because now you feel like in a moment when you're at your lowest and they do that to you, then you feel like you're really worthless, you know, because like you can't go any lower. I mean, it's just even thinking about it reminds me of so much that I have myself been through, and what a devastating feeling that is. And you know, so many of us put up with this because we've never really known anything better. There's always been some form of an abuser in our vicinity. Well, maybe not always, but in many cases. And so somehow this abuse feels familiar, and we feel like that's all that we deserve. And if that's all that we deserve, then, but we are suffering, then we need to really turn the mirror onto ourselves and say, why? Why is my self-worth so low, and why am I willing to put up with that? You know, and begin to do some deeper introspection and dig in towards the root of what has happened. When did it first start? Because every child, when they come into this world, they're worthy, they're innocent, they have the light intact, and it is through the exposure to toxic environment where that starts to get eroded. And a child doesn't know anything other than whatever is their immediate family dynamic, especially during the first few years of their life. So if that dynamic was toxic and negative, and it kept reinforcing the belief that there's something wrong with the kid, then if we meet someone who's a tiny bit better on our path, you know, in life, then we're gonna feel like, wow, we just scored. But being in a healthy, loving relationship is a whole different game. It's a whole different world. And yes, I'm going to make a video about it very soon. And still collecting myself after the jet lag. And I really wanted to address this question because it's been in my inbox. And I think it really deserved to be addressed, because so many of us can get so confused, you know, when we're facing these really difficult choices. So, you know, I hope that this helped. Yeah, I would say that I would recommend absolutely taking steps towards exiting, you know, as difficult as it is, even, you know, even if this person is claiming they're going to, you know, improve. But if you're not seeing this in their actions, if they're not showing that, then you can bet that it's going to just, you're going to be getting more of the same. But again, if you'd like to continue, that is 100% your choice. And I wish you all the best. I wish you all the strength and perseverance that I can, because you're going to need this. Sending you all the best. Hopefully this was a good video for you and has helped you maybe clarify some things for yourself. And I will see you in another film. And throughout this journey, you know, as you're looking at these options, as you're weighing them out and making tough decisions, just stay connected to that inner compass, your intuition, because if it feels bad, then it is bad. If it feels bad to you, it is bad. Love is not supposed to hurt. Love is supposed to feel really cozy, really comfortable, really empowering, sweet, nice, warm, like a delicious hug from a friend. So if that's not what you're getting, then you might want to ask yourself, why is that enough? Why is what you're having enough for you? Maybe you're worth more. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna sign off. Again, sending you lots of love from California, and I look forward to catching you in another film. Bye-bye.